B-side is what we're doing.
B-side.
Could also be referred to, I learned it as below the fold, but that's a newspaper reference, and we don't really have newspapers that much.
No, we shouldn't.
So we are basically addressing a series, a list of things here that aren't the headlines, kind of some stories that we think you should be thinking about. They're
right.
A little bit off the beaten path, but very important to each team's camp.
That's exactly right. You know, some teams, we have boxed ourselves into one theme all the time, and we just talk about it. And, you know, I get sick of that, and I try to self-scout thyself, as I always say, to where, yeah, let's get into some other really important aspects of that football team instead of just, oh, the quarterback this or the quarterback that or this receiver, and they're exciting. I mean, you know, that's where I think fantasy and that whole world has taken over and all of that. And just so everybody out there knows, just to change the subject, we are going to have Josh Norris on here in a few minutes, too. We got the big effort coming. My father will be talking, and I have no idea where that's going. All right, I think we're going to talk backup quarterbacks, but I'm not sure about that. And then we will get into some fantasy football with Josh Norris shortly after that. But yeah, right now we're going to get into some B-side stories, things that are important going around the NFL that are not maybe getting quite the you know, headlines or attention they should be.
And let's start just up the road here with the Patriots. And it's fun to talk about the Brady-Belichick thing. And
of course,
what's Tom going to do without Gronk? But you get beyond that, and something that people's attention should go to in that camp, beyond the quarterback, head coach, and tight end who's not there. What do you find?
I think that, yes, I mean, it's Gronkowski, it's Brady, it's Belichick. That's all you ever hear, you know. To me, the thing that goes unnoticed with the New England Patriots, and it drives me crazy sometimes, this is arguably the best secondary in football. I mean, it's certainly in the conversation. I know it's debatable maybe between Jacksonville and, you know, some other teams around the league, but this is really this is one of the key components to this football team over the last few years, to where, hey, if the offense is sputtering and we only score 13 points in the Super Bowl, our defense is good and can stop somebody to 3.
And not just any somebody, the team that scored the most points in the NFC.
Exactly right. And again, I know the Kansas City Chiefs put up some points in that AFC Championship game, but it was because of 3 or 4 plays. It was no consistency. It was just 2 great players making a play every now and then, where the scheme just, you know, was overcome by Tyreek Hill speed or Mahomes' arm, where you're just like, holy crap. But the Patriots secondary, when you just really break down, it's just about perfect. They can match up with any wide receiver skill set in the NFL. They have like a starting 5 in basketball. They have guys that can match up with, oh, you got big receivers? Oh, okay. We got Joe Juwan Williams, who we just drafted in the first round, a 6'3" corner. You know, they got, you know, oh, the jitterbug types? Okay. We got Jonathan Jones, who can take the slot receivers and follow them all over the field. Stephon Gilmore, it's him or Jalen Ramsey for the best corners in football. It's an unbelievable group, let alone young guys like J.C. Jackson, who contributed the last half of the year last year, who has a chance to be a superstar in this league, and Devin McCourty, who is still one of the best safeties in football. And, you know, and again, not that Brady and Belichick and Gronk and all that they deserve the attention. I understand that. But so much of how they win football games is because of that defense and what they put on that secondary. Like I said, I don't think there's been a team in football the last 3 years that plays more man-to-man.
What do they put on that secondary?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, some of their game plans are unique. Mm-hmm. I've said this in the past week. What they did against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, that was a defensive game plan that has never been run in the history of the NFL. Never.
What's the Cliff Notes version of that?
They played man-to-man across the board, okay? And they doubled Tyreek Hill with the free safety in the middle of the field every time. So they made it look like it was almost like a, you know, man coverage, single man high, right, type of defense. But it was really man coverage, and that guy sitting in the center of the field, wherever Tyreek Hill was, as soon as the snap happened, he went and doubled him with Jonathan Jones. And then they had Stephon Gilmore shutting out Sammy Watkins, and then J.C. Jackson, who's a big corner, taking on Travis Kelce. But because they did single safety along with it, Paul, what they did there, too, is they got the bracket the back, right? So now you have you got 2 guys, right? There's 5 eligibles, and you got 3 one-on-one matchups. You double Tyreek Hill, right? So that's the 4th eligible. And then the fifth guy is the back out of the backfield, where they would have two linebackers, just as you would call it, one bracket. You can call it a number of one things, where the back comes out of the backfield. If he ran to the left, that linebacker takes him. If he runs to the right linebacker takes him. But that was truly, I mean, I know it caught Kansas City by surprise, but it's truly an unseen thing, and I study film all the time, and I just think that's one of these things that I look at and go, it's so impressive about their football team, how Bill Belichick's built that aspect of it, let alone his ability to recognize the talents of these guys and who matches up with who on a week-to-week basis. And they're a special unit and a huge part of why they win football games on a year-to-year basis.
And that Kansas City example is just one, and it's unique for what they did that night. But as I'm listening to you and thinking back to what, I mean, at a smaller level, what gave guys like you and me a hard time, it had the two components that it can get any quarterback at any level. A defense shows you something you hadn't seen, you haven't seen, and that you didn't expect. That's number one. And then number two, the defense that disguises that new plan very well. You spend so many series where you punt it away, you come over to the sideline, and between you, other guys in the offense you trust, and the coaches you trust, you have this thought of, what are they doing?
Yes.
And what is that? But by the time you figure it out, it might be late second quarter. It might be third quarter. It might be Monday.
Exactly right. I don't know if they figured it out really till late in the game. Right. Because they were going, the look of it was not normal to a double team look, let alone nobody. I mean, you're basically playing no safety in the middle of the field, even though he's there at the start of the snap. But then his attention goes to Tyreek Hill. So then everybody that's playing man-to-man underneath had no help behind them. Right? And that to me was one of the magical things about their run last year. And just, it's one of the things, again, that he's on another level, Bill Belichick, as far as how he builds a team and how he sees it, and his DBs in a passing league. I'm going to match up with big receivers, small receivers, tight ends. It doesn't matter who you play every week. I got the guys to do that.
Speaking of passing league, when you get to Baltimore, one of the few teams that's had success in the AFC against the Patriots in the postseason the last 10 to 12 years. All eyes go to Lamar Jackson. How is he going to be in year two? And it's a fair question.
Sure.
When you think about this team with really high expectations and a great resume, how he does in year two as a starter going to have a lot to do with how good they are. But once you get beyond the quarterback situation, where should the eyes go?
I mean, you said it, it's Lamar. Oh, what's this new offense that they're talking about? That's all we ever talk about. Let's not forget, the Ravens were one of the best defenses in football.
Always.
Right. And, they lost to Darius Smith in free agency and C.J. Mosley in free agency. Okay, those are big losses. But, damn, they are still phenomenal up front. Big bodies everywhere. One of the biggest front sevens in all of football. But the secondary, again, I know this is secondary back-to-back, but hear me out with this secondary that they got right now. I mean, first off, their safety tandem, you could argue it's the top in football with Tony Jefferson and Earl Thomas. I mean, it's phenomenal. They can do whatever they want. One could be the strong, one could be the free. They both can cover people man-to-man. They both can play center field and have great range in the back end, especially Earl Thomas. Earl looks really good, like he can still fly around. But then when you get into guys like Marlon Humphrey going into year three, who really came on last year, he's got a chance to be like a real shutdown corner. When Brandon Carr's your third corner, and then you got Jimmy Smith, who is going to be back in the fold and hopefully healthy here soon. But then it just continues to go on and on. They got young guys like Anthony Everett, who's from Alabama, who can really fly. They got a few guys that have size. But Tavon Young, who just got injured, that could be a little troublesome. Cyrus Jones at nickel, who the Patriots took. He's been getting a lot of time in the preseason. So, again, this is another team where, we all know it's quarterback, and I'm excited to see the offense too. But even if that sputters, this is a team that I don't care. I mean, maybe on a given week, but most weeks the defense is going to keep them in a lot of football games.
You say offense sputters in Baltimore. It wouldn't be the first time.
Exactly.
And it's amazing. You go back the last 10 years, I think they've been below 500 one time. And how many times have they had an elite offense? I mean, Joe Flacco really had them going when they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
And they've toggled between okay and pretty good for a while.
Right.
But the defense has carried this team
this franchise for a long time.
For quite a while.
It really is.
In Dallas.
Yes.
I understand the whole, the sexiness of the Zeke Elliott contract.
Right.
And that, as soon as you exhaust that, you get into Dak Prescott's coming
next
up too.
Right.
And about Amari Cooper. So that whole package of conversations with the Cowboys makes sense.
Yeah.
But I, like a lot of other people, a little bit tired of being stuck there with the Cowboys.
Sure, right.
Where can we go next?
Yeah, I think, okay, and this is less of a positive thing of the other two teams we talked about. And yeah, you're right. All the attention on those three guys and how are they going to keep them all and can they pay them all? Hey, my biggest concern with the Cowboys right now, because Dak Prescott's there right now and Amari Cooper's there. Zeke's the only one not. And hey, Zeke's hard to replace. But I have a huge question mark about Kellen Moore. I do. And that's no disrespect to Kellen Moore, the human being. I know he's a great guy and he works hard at what he does. But here we are talking about all of these things. And I want to go, okay, Kellen Moore, he comes out of Boise State. He goes to the Detroit Lions, right? You know who his offensive coordinator was there?
Scott Linehan.
Scott Linehan. So then he's there. He has 1 year, I believe, I'm missing with one guy in Detroit. I can't remember, in his last year in Detroit. I can't remember. I'm blanking on the name. I'll get to it in a second. Either way, he then goes, his career's over playing. He goes to Dallas and goes and works for Scott Linehan. So what does he know that Scott Linehan didn't know that was there prior?
And he was a player in Dallas as a backup for a while.
And stats just saved me there. Joe Lombardi was the name I wanted to come up. He was there as 1 year in Detroit. It didn't really work out, right? So my big thing there is, yes, we can talk about the contracts and the stars and the Zeke thing and all of that. But even if Zeke's there, there's going to be a handful of games during the year where the run game is not going to dominate the other team. And you're going to have to rely on, man, can the Cowboys drop back and dissect people in the pass game? And, you know, it's preseason, so I'm not judging harshly yet, right? Because we're not seeing it. I don't know what the total picture is going to look like. But I can tell you that I have huge concerns about it. I really do. Yeah, one, he's never called plays. 2, he's unproven. And 3, he doesn't have a vast group of people that he's learned from.
In his background of coaching.
To pull ideas. You know, most really good brains have been with other good brains in football to go, ooh, I like what he did, so I'm going to steal this. Hey, Sean McVay, he was with John Gruden. He went, oh, gosh, I like all this John Gruden. Then he went with Mike Shanahan, and oh, shit, Mike Shanahan. And then Kyle was the OC, and he, oh, God, I'll take from Kyle, and now I'll make my own concoction. And that's really how it almost works with just about every successful coach in football. Sean Payton. Want to go through that? Worked with John Gruden, worked with Bill Parcells, had all these people, these different avenues of thinking and ideas and schemes to where he could put it all together. That's my big question mark about the Dallas Cowboys. I know the players are good. They're going to be a very good football team in a lot of ways. My big thing is when they have to play other good football teams and they can't just physically dominate you, are they going to be able to do enough in the pass game, creative enough, moving up people? And that's a big unknown for me.
Well, since the theme of this entire discussion here is B-side, like the next arguments here or the next discussions here after the headlines, I'm going to take the B-side of the Kellen Moore thing, and everything you said makes perfect sense. Like, I hadn't thought of it that way. And his resume, people he's learned from, is not that vast, and he isn't that old. Let's start, though, at Boise State. Dirk Cutter started that system. They were doing some things offensively that a lot of other teams weren't. He started for 4 years. So I think he gained some pretty good knowledge there.
That's fair.
He has some experience playing, and granted, it's college, but being under center, making decisions that a lot of quarterbacks didn't have when they got to the NFL. I think he's precocious in terms of how he approaches the game. I think his mind and his anticipation were the only reason that he excelled at Boise State.
No question,
Only reason he stuck around in the NFL where a lot of people thought he wouldn't. And isn't there something to be said for, okay, he doesn't have the resume, he doesn't have the experience of pick an offensive coordinator who's in his 40s, 50s, or 60s. Maybe the players will look at him and relate to him differently Monday through Friday because he was just on the field. Maybe he can make up for some of that because of this relationship he could have with Dak. They were teammates before they were play caller and quarterback. So you bring up great points. I'm just thinking of ways maybe he can overcome that.
I hope you're right.
I do think he has some parts of his resume that could lead you to believe that he could overcome.
I hope you're right. I do. It's just a question mark. I hope Jason Garrett gets involved in it too. I'm rooting for the Cowboys. I like Jason Garrett. I like a lot of the guys on that team. I root for Dak Prescott. But yes, my question still remains, and you're right. That's good pushback. I understand. Those are valid points too. And hopefully he can steal some stuff from Dirk Cutter and his years there and just his experience on the field, what works, what doesn't work, what makes a quarterback feel comfortable, what doesn't. Sometimes you don't have to be a magician as an OC. It can come down to just how you sequence your plays, how you set it up, how you call the game. It doesn't always have to be like, whoa, look at these formations and these concepts. Some of the best offenses ever are simple, but they just have a formula that works, and I'm rooting for that to happen for him.
And he's handpicked by the head coach, Jason Garrett, who I think he called plays until 2013, so he's got some experience he can share with him while he also steps back at times and just overlooks.
Yep.
49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play well. Hasn't played well in the preseason yet, coming off an injury. His relationship with Kyle Shanahan. Let's get beyond the Jimmy Garoppolo story in San Francisco and get to something else that matters.
Yeah, I think my big concern, and I like a lot of the things on the 49ers roster, and ultimately, I guess right where I'm sitting right now, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be okay. I do. I'm not, I don't know where it's all going to go. I'm not saying he's going to hit the first week of the season at MVP form or anything like that. But I'm not I still have enough faith in him and Shanahan and some of the weapons they have around him that it can make it work. My big thing with the 49ers is they have health and injury concerns the last few years that I think are worth talking about. And I don't necessarily always like going this route because sometimes you just get unlucky.
There are more there and more often recently.
It certainly seems it. I mean, hey, we can start first off at the running back position, okay? Breida's had injury history, okay? Tevin Coleman's had a number of times where he's been banged up throughout his career. Okay, Dante Pettis, their second-year receiver who performed well for them last year, he got hurt, so he's battling back from injury. You sign Quan Alexander and give him a lot of money. He's coming off an ACL tear and has a PED history. That's always scary to me. Dee Ford has another injury history, hasn't been able to do a lot this training camp as well. Added to the fact the other side of the D-line is Nick Bosa, and he's been a walking injury question himself. Then you get into Richard Sherman, okay, was great. I mean, not great, I'm not going to say great, but he played healthy, and at least he's coming off an Achilles tear 2 years from now at an age where that gets scary, but I'm not totally concerned about him. But guys like Jaquiski Tartt, who have been hurt a lot through their career, Jimmy Ward, who they ask a lot of in the secondary, he's been hurt a lot. They got high hopes for Jason Verrett, who was a first-rounder from the Chargers for a few years ago. He's been nothing but a walking injury. So this team has great potential, but damn, with some of these guys we're talking about, we could get to week 3 or week 4 and go, half the team's gone and they're in deep shit.
That's a long list.
That's a long list.
Everybody's got a couple.
Right.
I mean, I think you almost hit double digits.
It's very close, and it's not like it's like, the backup defensive end or the backup, tackle. It's like these are they need to contribute, this group right here.
Right.
And we didn't even mention Jimmy Garoppolo, who's coming off injury.
Right.
Right. So that's my number one concern. Is we can talk about Garoppolo and how he's going to look and can he justify his contract. That would just be another concern for me, just from the outside looking in, about the 49ers.
Yeah, a lot of those injury concerns on defense, and they got to worry about Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson and everything they're doing.
And the Rams.
And Jared Goff. So what a downer there for the 49ers.
I know. Sorry, my friend Kyle Shanahan. I didn't mean to be Debbie Downer.
For all Giants fans wanting to take their attention from the quarterback situation, Eli Manning and Daniel Jones, and divert it somewhere else, at least for a few minutes, if not for a couple days, what advice do you have for them?
I think the thing I've been impressed with more than anything with the Giants, and hey, Daniel Jones, it's been great. Eli looks great. And that's all we ever talk about with the Giants. Or we talk about how they're going to replace Odell.
Both better than expected. That's a great story.
It is. It's a great story. It is.
So
and
far.
I understand people locking onto that. But the thing that has really popped to me about the New York Giants through the first 2 weeks of the preseason, and I think this is something I can evaluate a little bit, one of the few things I've been able to really evaluate through the preseason, they're going to be a beast up front. The Giants are not going to be pushed around.
Think about what a change that is.
I know. First off, Pat Shurmur's an O-line guy. Gettleman believes in big people, okay? They get a guy like Kevin Zeitler at guard, who is still a phenomenal football player. So now you got Will Hernandez, a left guard. Halapio at center, who's pretty good. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Zeitler at right guard. You got Remmers at right tackle, who I'm not sitting here saying is like a franchise guy, but he's good. And then you got Nate Solder on the left, who, he's overpaid, but he's still good.
Right.
Okay, you got that with Shurmur and his ability to scheme people and run. And the play-action pass that we've already seen in the preseason with Daniel Jones has hit a number of big plays off of. It's going to be a deadly combination, added to the fact that their defensive front, Paul, it's one of the biggest in football. They're going to be...
How big?
I mean, they got 3 guys on the defensive line. They're a 3-4 hybrid type of team. If you go B.J. Hill, Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence, you're almost at 1,000 pounds right there with those three guys. I mean, Dalvin Tomlinson's around 315, B.J. Hill's around 315, and then big Dexter Lawrence, who's been the best rookie defensive lineman so far, is at 345. He's a huge man. And then you got guys like Lorenzo Carter out of Georgia, who's a huge outside linebacker. He's basically like a big defense end. He's about 265, 260, right in that range. The other side is Kareem Martin, who's a long, praying mantis type outside linebacker, who's, I don't know what Kareem is. Let me just look, I'll tell you. But he's got to be 6'4", 260, something around there, 6'6", 272. Okay, so damn, he's bigger than I thought he was. I just look at that and go, when you have that, just like we talked about with Baltimore a little bit, nobody's going to just steamroll you. Because as you know, playing football, and as anybody knows out there, when you can win the battle in the trenches, or at least battle to a stalemate, you're going to have chances to win football games.
Yeah.
And they're going to match up with teams like the Dallas Cowboys week 1. And Dallas is going to go, whether Zeke's back or not, they're going to go, holy shit, I can't move this group. I hope our passing game can work. I hope Kellen Moore can draw up some good crap,
right?
Bringing that back together. But it's just something that, yes, not a lot of people are talking about, but it just through my evaluation so far has really jumped out to me about the Giants.
Well, just listening to you talk about the Giants and kind of taking it beyond just this B-side below the fold argument and advancing it, as you praise the Giants in those two very important areas, offensive line, defensive line, how much better they're going to be.
Yeah.
If Saquon Barkley takes the expected next step, if Eli/Daniel Jones a little bit better than expected.
Right.
Best team in the NFC East?
Best team in the NFC East? No.
Yeah.
Not going there. I'm not going to give them the edge over the Eagles yet.
I thought it might catch you in this wave of enthusiasm.
Yeah, no, I'm really enthused.
Praising the line.
No, I don't look as the Giants as a playoff team. I'm not going to lie to you there, but I think they're a team that can be a real pain in the butt for people and might surprise people that they're still in the conversation late November.
If they matter in December, that's
I think
a win.
It's a win.
That's a
exactly
win.
right. I'm with you there all the way.
Let's go to Cleveland. Definitely the connection there with the OBJ trade. If I take a list of Browns headlines, and from Baker Mayfield, everything Baker Mayfield, to OBJ, to all the star power, to the fact that they might be playing in January, I push all that off the list. What's your next topic?
You said it. It's the star power on both sides of the ball, right? I mean, you know, you even get the defense. Everybody, oh, Myles Garrett. It's Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon. Got Greedy Williams in the second round. Denzel Ward was amazing last year at corner. I have one question about this football team, and nobody's really talked about it. That's their offensive line. And I'm not going to say I'm worried, but it's an unproven commodity.
And they gave up Zeitler.
They got a guy like Greg Robinson who came in and did some good work for them at left tackle. I mean, up until last year was considered a bust. He was the number 2 pick in the draft for the Rams at one point. So I look at that and go, that is going to be something I'm looking at early on in the year. Because I'm not worried about Odell and Baker and Jarvis Landry and David Njoku and the other studs we mentioned on defense. That's going to be fine. I'm worried about, are they going to protect Baker? Are they going to open up lanes for Nick Chubb, who's a budding superstar at the running back position? Those are really the big questions to me about that offense. There are just some unproven commodities there that, you know, I got to see them line up against the Rams defense and the Jets defense and deal with blitz pickups and things like that, to where I go, okay, the Browns are definitely for real. That's that one last little piece of the puzzle that I need to see. Let me make sure I get my dad. Just text him, just so he knows, because we're 8 minutes late. Yep. Okay, they're calling him on. We have one more, right? Or how many?
We
more?
do.
Yeah.
The Packers. Cool. And with a nod of respect to the Canadian tuxedo that Aaron Rodgers had on yesterday. Did you see it?
Oh, yes,
strong.
I did.
That was great.
It was strong.
With the mustache, it
ugly
looked
strong, okay? That's what that was. That was ugly strong, but when you're an Aaron Rodgers, you can pull that crap off.
If you can pull the attention away from all things Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense and look at the defense for a moment, what's happening there?
Yeah, I think that, all we talk about is LaFleur, Rodgers, LaFleur. Oh, the audibles. Can they audible? Can they coexist? Yeah. Can Aaron Rodgers be coached, or is ego going to take over? And shut up with all that crap. I'm so sick of it. But the one thing everybody's missing is this is a defense this year that has a chance to be I'll go as far as saying they have a chance to be a top 5 defense in football.
Wow.
Yeah, at the very,
It'd be a massive step up.
A massive step up. At the very worst, a top 10 defense. I really do look at it that way. And we saw little improvements from them last year, where they were 18th in football last year on the defensive side of the ball. But when you talk about the guy Darnell Savage, who we talked about in the pre-draft process, who everybody's raved about. Aaron Rodgers raved about him to me in person, okay? Adrian Amos at safety. Then you get over to Jair Alexander, one of the great young corners in the sport right now. They got a kid, number 28, undrafted. I'm Anthony Brown on their roster, who's undrafted out of Alabama, ran one of the fastest times at the Combine 2 years ago. He's playing corner in the nickel spot with Tremont Williams going inside the nickel, but then Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary added to the mix, okay, with Kenny Clark on the inside and a bunch of other good players where I go, hey, this is the first time in a while Aaron Rodgers might not have to, be 24 for 30 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns for them to win every game. He might have some weeks where he can go 20 for 40.
And still win.
And still win.
And if you take a close look at that defense, there's so much young talent that you mentioned from the drafts back to 2016. They went out and spent money in the free agency
for the first time ever, really.
A couple of different ways.
Yes.
But in addition to that, from first-round picks, and they have 3 of them from the last 2 years, to second to sixth, they've got so much young talent from 2016 on that came from their own draft, and they've got a new defensive coordinator in Mike Pettin. So young talent, new thinking around there. I'm on board.
I think so. I mean, all we talk about is that offense and Rodgers, but I'm excited about their full team for the first time in really about 6 or 7 years.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.